Hello everyone. Well, this is really an exciting moment and I just wanted to capture it on video. Wanted to come here to a park, a nice atmosphere and sunshine, because Paul McCartney is going to have his first #1 album on Billboard's Top 200 charts since 1982's Tug of War. And I'm very excited about it. I know all you Beatle fans and Paul fans are too. And it's wonderful. Here we are, it's the year 2018, and who could ever have imagined that a 76-year-old Paul McCartney would be here in the 21st century having a big hit album? Who could have imagined this in 1965, in 1970, 1975? Who could imagine it? It is fantastic. I'm so excited about it. I just had to make the video. Now, the comments I'm going to make here are going to be kind of weighing things in perspective, kind of a little bit this way and that. So just hear me out here, and I'll go on with my feelings here. Now, as of the moment I'm making this video on a Sunday here, it's not 100% certain that Paul's album is indeed going to be #1. He's in competition with Eminem. Is that plain or peanut? I mean, Eminem. Eminem. Where's Eminem going to be when he's 76, right? But anyway, Eminem was possibly going to take over Paul and beat him. But as of this moment, it's not 100% confirmed, I don't believe. But I think it's pretty much understood that he's on target, Paul is, to have the #1 album when it comes out on Billboard. Now, the sources that I have here written down say the new album, Egypt Station, has sold 145,000 plus copies. And the beautiful thing is, according to an article that I read by Robert Friedman, he says that the beautiful thing is, out of the 145,000, 140,000 of these are pure physical media sales and paid downloads. So between physical media on CD and vinyl and so forth, I guess, and paid downloads, we have 140,000 of those. It's not just streaming. Streaming was very minimal, the article says. And I'm contending here with gnats. So, hey, what I do for my art, if I get mosquito bites, so be it, right? So congratulations to Paul. Now, Paul wanted the #1 album. Let's not mince words. You know Paul wanted the #1 album. He's been dying for a #1 album, and I've been dying as a fan. I've wanted Paul to have a #1 album for a long, long time. And you know how I feel if you watched my review. While I like Egypt Station, and while I think it's a pretty darn good album in Paul's canon, I don't think it's among his very best. In the last 21 years, I wanted so many other albums to be #1. I thought Flaming Pie in 1997 was a contender that could have been #1. I thought that Chaos and Creation in the Backyard in 2005 could have been a #1. I even liked Paul's album New from 2013, which I thought was more fitting of a #1 album. So it's kind of a disappointment in a way that those didn't make #1. But you know what? I'll take whatever I can get. I'll take it any way I can get it. And you know, it was always puzzling to me that other contemporaries, Paul's other music friends and contemporaries, would manage to get #1 albums somehow, but it was always very hard to attain for Paul. I mean, Bob Dylan had a #1, Tom Petty, Black Sabbath had a #1, Bruce Springsteen. All these people had #1s, but Paul's albums could never quite make it there, although they were respectable. They were number 3, number 5, you know, in the top 5. I also thought Memory Almost Full in 2007 had a chance for a #1 album, you know, but it is what it is. Now, I want to say very clearly that I'm not trying to come on here saying that chart position is the only indicator of whether an album is worthwhile or not. Lord knows there have been a lot of very good albums, great albums that never made #1, and a lot of lousy music that's made #1, especially in the last 30 years. So, I mean, it's not as if I'm saying that unless you get a #1, it means nothing. It doesn't mean anything. But I think it's just fantastic. What a feather in Paul's cap this must be to say maybe one final time that he's got a #1, that he made it at age 76. I hope this is not Paul's last album. Paul is a workaholic. He really wants to share his music with the world, and he loves making music and sharing it. So I really think he'll do more work, maybe 1 or 2 more albums, hopefully. But if he doesn't, he can say, you know what, in my 70s I had a #1. Now, that's all pretty much the good stuff that I want to say, and I want to keep this pretty positive. This is a positive experience. Let's rejoice. Here we are in the year 2018, which back in the 60s and 70s, this was like Star Trek times, outer space time, and we're still here enjoying Paul and albums that he's putting out. But I think that what really propelled this album to #1 is the massive promotion associated with it. Paul did promotion for his last album, New, in 2013, but not quite this much. I mean, Paul's marketing team at Capitol Records, they pulled out all the stops. Nothing was left behind. I mean, consider some of the notes that I've taken here. We have, like, for example, Paul did the Carpool Karaoke with James Corden, which I recommend you watch. It was very entertaining. He did the Grand Central Station concert in New York, and you know, he's been all over the place. He's been in England and, you know, America. Now, also, we had this situation where there were bundles of CDs given away, concert bundles, where if you buy tickets to Paul's tour, and this is something he should have done a long time ago, he gives the album away with it. So if you buy a couple of tickets, you're going to get a couple of CDs. So that kind of stacks the deck too, let's be honest, you know. If you're going to do that, Paul hasn't really done that before, I don't think. So that was a big deal, you know. Buy a concert ticket, get a CD, you know. Counts as a CD sale. Then we have the controversial song, For You, that came out. And people thought that Paul was trying to say F you in the song, and that made a lot of headlines, and that made a lot of internet talk, and that got a lot of people buzzing. And there's a video out now on the market for the youth, young people, for the song For You, and I think that that's catching people's attention. So Paul deliberately, and to his credit, made this album an album that can appeal to younger people. If you're a younger person, there's some sounds on here, some music you'll like, so check it out. Songs like Come On To Me and For You and other styles of production on this album are very friendly to younger people. But at the same time, Paul retains his McCartneyisms, the McCartney sound, the McCartney style, the McCartney flavor that we all love, us older people who've been around for decades with Paul. So it pleases both audiences. But also, I will also write down here, there was something going on where Paul McCartney now released multiple copies of this album for the die-hard collectors like myself and others. Now, even I have not gone as crazy about this as some other people have. Paul's put out albums in different colored vinyls. The die-hard fans out there, and you know who you are, some people in the vinyl community, want to get all of them. There's copies here on green vinyl, copies of this album on red vinyl. There's copies here on blue and orange vinyl. You have also a couple of CDs. Me, myself, right now, I own 4 copies of this album. One of them by accident, I'll tell you why. I mean, I have one standard compact disc CD, and then I bought the exclusive Target CD, which has bonus tracks on it, 2 bonus tracks. So there's 2 CDs right there, standard and bonus. And then I accidentally bought a standard black vinyl album that I didn't realize it was not a gatefold cover, so I kind of bought that. Had I known it was not a gatefold, I wouldn't have bought it. Then later on, I found out there's a deluxe version with a trifold that opens up to a triplicate, you know, nice cover of the painting that Paul did for Egypt Station. I went and bought that. That was the one I really wanted. But anyway, so I bought 4 copies. So you know, that's 4 sales right there, and a lot of people are buying 5 or 6 copies of this album. So you got that too stacked, you know. And not to say that it's not quality on this album. You know, I want that to be clear. A lot of people think I'm dissing this album. You know, I think it's a good album by Paul. It's a good album, and the more I listen to it, it's even getting more good. But I just don't think it's a classic. I don't think it's amongst his best. That's all I'm saying. But the last thing is, and I don't know how people are going to feel about this. You know, there was a GQ article that Paul did where he talked about how he and John Lennon, in a group when they were younger, let's just say they kind of pleasured themselves, you know, in the dark. You know, there was there was a dark room, and they kind of had some fun there and did some things. The way I look at that story is, I just say, kids will be kids, boys will be boys. It doesn't really make me feel like it's anything really that outrageous, but it came out in a headline, and the New York Post, in New York obviously, had a cover that went very popular, and it was called not Meet the Beatles, but Beat the Meatles, M-E-A-T. And I figured that one out. You can see a copy of the cover online there if you want. I'm not going to show it here. But there's a guy that I mentioned earlier, Robert Friedman, who did a article, and he believes that kind of sensationalism also urged some people to buy copies of this album. So, this stuff, Paul didn't leave any stone unturned on this. And, hey, the main thing is, at the end of the day, however it happened, the album seems to be number one. It's going to be number one. It hasn't officially come out yet on the Billboard. It's predicted to. And if for any reason it turns out that there's some kind of upset at the last minute and the predictions are completely wrong about this, I'll just go ahead and delete this video. Why not? I mean, I'm not going to leave it up if it's not number one. But I felt secure enough in what I've been reading to make the video that it's going to be number one. So anyway, congratulations to Paul McCartney. A wonderful moment in time. All of us fans of Paul and the Beatles can enjoy taking him all the way into the 21st century, almost into the 2020s at this point. Hopefully Paul will continue, make a couple more albums, and I'm just very happy for Paul and for all us fans. Enjoy, everyone.